Hi everyone, and welcome to our first webinar for 2026. My name's Hadleigh Fischer. I'm the founder of Resilience Agenda, and we're here today to talk about boosting our mental fitness and setting well-being goals in 2026. For those of you who don't know me or who haven't engaged with Resilience Agenda in the past, I grew up in Australia and I'm now living in Switzerland. I hope you can't hear my new baby, my 12-week-old, in the background. But I've been running Resilience Agenda for 8 years, and Resilience Agenda is all about making mental fitness a way of life. Our goal is to help people reimagine what mental health is all about and to give people the knowledge and the skills and the confidence to think about their mental health just like their physical health and to take action on it in the same way. I started Resilience Agenda because I grew up in a family affected by really poor mental health. A lot of people in my family were struggling with mental illness, and I wanted to protect my own mental health. There were things I wanted to do about it, and the good news was the science and the emerging literature and the public awareness campaigns were starting to show that there are things we can do. Not all the time, it doesn't always work. Sometimes we do need to reach out to others, or for more serious conditions, we do need to get professional help. But for so often, so many of us, there are things we can do to manage our own mental health. And it all changed for me in my mid-20s. So until I was about 21 or 22, I never talked about mental health to anyone. I went to my 21st birthday party. My mum wasn't there. She was in hospital. She was unwell. And I made an excuse that wasn't true for why she wasn't there. And then as I got a bit older, I started getting a bit more comfortable with sharing the mental health message. I was kind of like a convert to it. Yep, this is the thing I want to do. But the people around me, no one was really interested in mental health or what it was all about. And this is pre-COVID, before mental health became trendy. And it all changed when I started using this term mental fitness. It's such a relatable phrase and concept, and I want to run you through a bit of that today. So as I said, I live in Switzerland, travel the world writing and speaking to companies and groups about mental fitness. And my passion in life is creating tools and sharing simple, really practical, action-oriented ideas that we can all use to manage our mental health. So, what do I want to talk about today? Well, a lot of people set New Year's goals around their physical health, and that's great. A lot of people set New Year's goals and resolutions for financial goals or business goals, but I want to talk about well-being in general, demystify that a bit, and talk about some ideas for how we can focus on our mental fitness and how that can help us just live a better life and have a better year. So I want to talk about three things mainly. Don't just set physical goals, set mental fitness goals as well. And that helps us to feel calmer and stronger and to feel like we can thrive under pressure. And with all the things that are going on in the world, the things on the news, the uncertainties, AI, whatever it might be, mental fitness and the wisdom that comes from it is the foundation for dealing with modern life. Then I want to talk about some practical strategies for dealing with our mental fitness and for setting those wellbeing goals. They're not an exhaustive list. They're not a deep dive. It's just a bit of a summary, but hopefully you take something away there. And then I want to share some ideas with you for how to get started and how you can make mental fitness a way of life this year and into the future. Also, at the end, we're going to give you the chance to ask some questions as well, so feel free to ask any questions. In fact, if you want, just type in where you are at the moment, and we'd love to hear from you. We've got people joining us from all over the world this year. I've just finished up the busy season for our diaries. We've sold about 20,000 of our books, and we've got people buying them from over 60 countries around the world. So hopefully there's some people joining us online from all over the world. If you haven't joined us before, or you haven't used our diaries or been to one of our seminars or done one of our courses, I just want to share a little bit about what mental fitness is all about. Mental health, as we know it today, has become synonymous with mental illness. When people say, oh, I have mental health, they mean I have something wrong with my mental health. I've got a mental illness. But mental health and mental illness are not exactly the same thing. And one of the challenges with the term mental health is that it's stigmatized. A lot of people don't think it's relevant to them. They think it's difficult to manage. They don't know where to start. Whereas when we think about fitness, and we think about fitness for our bodies, a lot of people know, okay, if I just eat a bit better, or if I go out for a walk a bit more, or I keep active, there are things I can do for my physical health. And I think this diagram here, or this chart here, which is called the Mental Fitness Continuum, is really, really powerful. On the left, we've got the red section, and that's what people commonly think mental health is all about, people who are diagnosed as unwell. And very often people think, well, if I don't have a diagnosis, then mental health isn't relevant to me. I don't have to think about it. But that's not how we think about physical health. Just because you don't have a physical health diagnosis doesn't mean you're not trying to protect it and improve it. And it's exactly the same thing for our mental health. Probably 1 in 4 people are struggling with a mental health condition or a mental illness. And that's where the majority of the awareness and action and discussion around mental health comes from. But there's also a large group of people who are struggling, or what in the literature they call languishing. They're people who maybe don't have a diagnosis, but are almost, would almost qualify for a diagnosis, or they're living as if they had a mental illness, or maybe they've had an episode of mental ill health in the past and they've tried to work on it and things just aren't quite working, or they've had a setback, and it's a real battle. And I think more and more people are in that category today, and we hear a lot of advice about getting therapy and medication. They're all great things, but not every person can have 20 therapy sessions a year. There's just not enough people. It's expensive, it's inaccessible, there are wait lists. And so what can we do ourselves before we run into trouble with our mental health, and what can we do as we're trying to recover? Then there's a whole bunch of people who are moderately mentally well. They're okay, they're fine, they're pretty happy, and that's where you want to be. And then, of course, you've got people who are highly resilient and highly mentally fit. And that doesn't mean they're happy all the time. What it means is that when problems and challenges and setbacks happen in our lives, we feel like we have the tools and the confidence to deal with them. Things don't get overwhelming, and that's a pretty small number. And you can see by the population curve there that the majority of people are in the middle, and I think actually more and more people are moving toward that left side. And what mental fitness is all about is increasing our psychological resources so that we move toward the right of that chart, so that if, say, a setback happens, and setbacks happen all the time, we don't fall into that category of diagnosed unwell or struggling, which gets in the way of functioning and living the life that we want with all the things that we value. So let's say, for example, you're a 3 or a 4 on that line. Let's say it's a 0 to 10 line. Let's say you're a 3 or a 4. You're just struggling to get through the day, and that's tough. And then maybe you lose your job, or an important relationship comes to an end, or you get a health problem, or someone passes away, whatever it might be, inevitably you're going to move back a couple of points. And going back from a 4 to a 2 can be a real struggle. And that's often where people get in trouble with their mental health and they don't know what to do. And sometimes we choose coping mechanisms that don't quite work. Let's say you're a 7 or an 8 on that scale. Things are okay. Big setback comes along, you move back to a 6. Yeah, you might be struggling for a little while, but you've got the habits and the tools in place to deal with it along the way. And of course, if you're a 9 or a 10, yes, you might move back, but you bounce back quicker. And that's what resilience is all about. It's about bouncing back from pressure, not just bouncing back to where we were, but also bouncing forward to a new place so that, and this is a real mindset shift for people, even though bad things are happening, somehow we come through them, we change, and we grow. They're going to happen anyway, so let's make something of them. And so we call mental fitness the how-to for building our resilience. The how-to for building our resilience. And the definition that we like to use is that mental fitness is the mindset, the tools, and the habits for protecting and improving our mental health. The mindset is the idea that our mental health is just like our physical fitness, that it's trainable, that it's improvable, that there are things that we can do. When we have setbacks, we can recover from them, and that's really, really important. The tools I'm going to cover in a moment, they're the things that we can do, the daily skills that we employ. And unlike a lot of the advice people get given around how to manage their mental health, which might be go meditate or what have you, some of those things take a lot of time. And yes, there are things that take time for our mental health. Some things we do anyway, that we just can optimize a bit and don't actually take that much more time. And so many of the things that we can improve, that can improve our mental health, are actually done in our heads as we solve problems and make decisions and plan our time. And that's what I want to talk about today. And then the habits, well, this is about turning awareness into action. There's a lot of talk about mental health. There's a lot of mental health awareness. We often talk about finding people who are struggling and supporting them. This is great. But what about everybody else? And I think probably 75% of the population feels like the mental health message doesn't really apply to them. And that's why the mental fitness message is so common sense and so empowering for people. So mental fitness is the mindset, the tools, and the habits for protecting and improving our mental health. Protecting the mental health we already have so it doesn't go down. We don't want to lose the mental health we have. But we also can improve our mental fitness. And what I love about the mental fitness concept is that it's a performance-enhancing strategy. Whether you want to succeed at your career, whether you want to be a better parent, whether you want to learn an instrument or start a business or write a book, whatever you value in life, whatever's important to you, mental fitness can help you do it because it helps you regulate your emotions, it helps you make decisions, solve problems, think more clearly, feel like you've got more confidence. It's a way of life. It's a way of looking at the world. And there's a lot to it, but that's what I'm really passionate about sharing with people. The Mental Fitness Toolkit are the things you can actually do. This is what science, ancient philosophy, cognitive science, sports science, well-being science says are the things that actually make a difference to our well-being. Here's the toolkit here. The top line are what I call the foundations of mental fitness: movement, nutrition, rest, connection, and mindset. We all move, we all eat, we all sleep, we all know people, and we all think. The question is, how well do we do those things under pressure, and how well do our habits stack up when things go against us, or we're a bit overwhelmed, or we face setbacks? They're the things that do take a little bit of time, and we can optimize them. The bottom row are what I call the skills of mental fitness. These are things that are done in our head. Purpose, focus, appreciation, reframing, and perspective. And there's a whole lot of insights in those 10 tools that I think get us about 80% of the way there to managing our well-being. Each of these are daily habits. Each of these, to some extent, are within our control. And that's, I think, one of the most important things to understand about our mental health is we can't always control our genes or how we were born. We can't always control how we were brought up or what people did to us when we were younger. We can't always control our circumstances or how people treat us now. But to an extent, and the more you know and the more confidence you've got, the more you're able to do this, we can influence some of these things. So, for example, movement is about realizing that there's more to exercise or more to movement than just exercise. You don't have to do an hour of exercise. It's about getting up and down and stretching, and that movement is one of the most powerful ways to improve our mental health, even if you can't run a 10K. The evidence shows that it's about as effective as antidepressants for mild to moderate depression. What's it going to do for everyone else who might not be struggling like that? Nutrition is one of the really exciting new fields for mental health. And the microbiome in our guts is impacted by what we eat, and that impacts how we feel. It's so exciting what we learn there. And the key takeaways that really shouldn't be a surprise to anyone: fiber, lots of veggies, limiting ultra processed foods. That's the key insight. Rest is about sleep. Until about 10 or 15 years ago, sleep was just thought of this thing that just happened, and no one really thought about it. But if you do a little thought experiment, we spend about a third or a quarter of our lives sleeping. Surely evolution would have gotten rid of it if it didn't serve a really valuable purpose. And sleep helps us to recover and to process the day's events and to rebuild for tomorrow. But what's happening in life is that we've extended the day and shortened the night. The CEO of Netflix came out and said that sleep is a competitor. We're on our devices till late at night. We're eating later. All sorts of different things are getting in the way. But rest is not just sleep. And we're going to talk about some of this today. It's about taking strategic breaks throughout the day and managing our energy really wisely. Pausing or having a rest or just stopping occasionally is not laziness. It's a performance strategy. And for people who want better work-life balance, who are always saying they've got no time for themselves, part of the reason is that they're not incorporating rest into their lives the way they could, and it's making them operate at 50% capacity. So things take longer and life just feels a bit draining. Connection is the number one predictor of well-being. Connection is the opposite of loneliness. It's about having people in your life who support you and value you, and that you support and can belong to. And as more and more of us live it, we move away from our families, we spend longer at work. Finding time to connect with others is getting harder and harder, plus all the social divisions that aren't helping as well. And then mindset, well, that's just how we think about overcoming problems, overcoming failures, our attitude to life. So there's a lot there. That's what all our diaries and courses and what have you are all about. That's the most important thing to keep in mind. That's about 80% of what you need. And the way I use this toolkit is when I'm having a tough day or I've had a setback, I think to myself, which of those 10 tools can I take action on now? What can I take control of? What can I optimize today? It doesn't need to be all of them. One of my big takeaways: movement, nutrition, and rest. So exercise, food, and sleep, those big three. Don't let all three of them drop at once in busy times. That's a rule that has served me really, really well. So we all know that sometimes you've got kids, like I've got a 3-month-old. Sometimes you've got a busy work project. Don't let all three of those collapse at once. because that's a one-way ticket to burnout. If you can't eat well or can't sleep well because you've got a child, make sure you get outside once a day. And that's what I do with my son. I carry him. If you can't move because you've got an injury, then make sure you're eating a little better. Always be in control of one. I think that's a really, really powerful insight. There's a wonderful book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Came out about 30 years ago. It was a leadership sensation by a guy called Stephen Covey. And in it, he shared and popularized the Eisenhower matrix. And if you've seen our 2026 diary, then you'll know that we briefly mention it there. But he divides tasks into 2 categories: urgent, not urgent, and then important and not important. Clearly, a task that's both urgent and important, you should do straight away. I think most of us get that. Not all of us are super clear on what is and what isn't important in our lives. We think that everything's important, and so our lives get fuller and fuller. And so if something's not important and it's not urgent, well, you should probably try and get rid of it, or at least kick that can down the road. Things that are urgent or not important, so sometimes you just got to do a whole lot of things. Sometimes you can get someone else to help you with them. I know delegating is often bad advice for people who don't have executive assistants, but I think the key message is, how can I get some help here? Do I have to be the person to do this? But the key insight from this is the important but not urgent category. And that is basically the system, or the reason, the purpose behind why we make diaries and the way we structure the content that we do. There are things in life that don't shout out to you every day as being important, like whether you're getting enough sleep, because you can have coffee and cover it up, or how your relationships are going, because you may not see someone for 6 or 12 months, and we do have relationships that we can just pick up like that. Not everyone is so lucky. So our health, our family sometimes, if you've got a young child, you've only got a limited amount of time with them. And often these things are hard to measure. It's hard to measure how your connection's going. It's a lot easier to measure how your bank balance is going, or whether you're in the corner office at work and got the promotion, or what your salary is. And we often focus on those things. The secret, I find, is to schedule and to make the big picture things that we might have to think about for the rest of our lives a part of our daily reality. And if I were to ask you what your top priorities were, you'd probably tell me, it's health and family, maybe even your career. Well, the question I often ask people when I do workshops is your health and your family in your schedule? And for many people, they're not. And the way around that is to schedule things so we don't forget them and let the urgent, or more and more commonly, distractions get in the way. People are spending more time worrying about what Donald Trump is doing than focusing on prioritizing what they think about and their own well-being. And the key message there is what we schedule, what we plan in advance, gets done. And more, I think we need this. There's no such thing as free time. Time gets filled either by whatever we're worrying about, by the distractions on our phone. There's an infinite amount of information on our phones. And sometimes if you're going to do an hour of movement, you can't just fit it in around other things. You actually need to schedule it. And we'll come to that in a moment. That's at a big picture level. From a day-to-day level, I love this concept by Jim Law and Tony Schwartz called manage your energy, not your time. So many of us have time when we have no energy, maybe 9 o'clock at night at the end of a long day, but we don't have time when we have energy. And you've probably heard of the term work-life balance. I don't love it necessarily. I prefer work-life integration. But the idea is that our energy quite naturally goes up and down throughout the day. And most of us don't plan or think about our energy usage through the day, except when we think about having another coffee. And the way to do that is to focus on the parts of the day when we've got the most energy, which for most people is the morning time, especially between, say, 8 and 12 in the morning. And to not just expect that our energy levels stay even all day and that we can sit at our desk without moving for 12 hours. And the Powerful Engagement has a wonderful background on the things you can do, but I just think that's a really important message. And the key point there is that breaks are a strategic, a performance enhancing tool. Breaks are not for lazy people. The smartest people, the wisest people, plan how long they're going to work for. They plan breaks. They recover properly in their breaks. And this has been a big change for me. Instead of just getting up from your desk and checking your phone and diving into some emotional mess, whether it's on WhatsApp or on the news, to actually take a proper break, go into nature, or there are different ways to take breaks. But I think that's a really important thing. And then the question is, well, why a diary? Why do we make diaries? Why are we so known for these diaries? Well, first of all, each month in the diary, you've got a short chapter which introduces a new mental fitness skill. In 1,000 words, in 10 minutes, you can learn that, and you can actually start to make that a habit over the month ahead. The great thing about a month is that it's about 30 days long. It takes about 21 to 28 days to build a new habit. And the reason why we have those 12 sections in the diary is so that you can learn something, starting with the foundations and getting a bit more advanced, and then start to make that a habit. And then by the end of the year, you'll have 36 new reflections and skills to be able to apply to your life. So that's one way that we talk about those skills. I think the number one habit that I do each day is I write down my top 3 priorities. For some people, that might just be a top 1 priority. If you're struggling at the moment, it might be doing one important thing per day, and that's enough. For me, it's a top 3. I write them down in my diary, and I don't add anything else to the list until I've finished those top 3. A lot of people plan their life by a to-do list. I actually think that's a really poor way to do things. I think we should prioritize things based on importance and the leverage that they have over other areas of our life. And so for me, when I'm planning my day, there's always one creative or work thing that I just have to get done. Over the last couple of days, it's been putting these slides together and preparing this presentation. That's a work thing. And a lot of us are pretty good at planning our work calendars, but I like to have 2 other categories in my top 3. Usually there's an important relationship to nurture, whether it's a business contact or getting in touch with my family or spending some time with my son. Relationship, number 1 cause of well-being. So I put that in. What am I doing to build a relationship today? And that might be the second thing on my list. And then the third thing is something for my health. Health, whether it's physical or mental, underpins every single thing about my life. And what I do is I review the week on a Sunday night, plan the week ahead. I do this both in my digital calendar, which is Outlook, and also my diary. But I use them a bit differently. The whole purpose of the diary is to take a few minutes out of the day for reflection. I think this idea of reflection and silence and not looking at your phone and just sort of thinking about things is really quite a lost art these days. So many people start their day with 2 habits that I think are really, really poor for our health, our focus, and our productivity. The first is checking your phone the minute you get out of bed. You can't unsee that first email. You can't unsee whatever disaster happened on the other side of the world. And if you're putting that into your mind at 6 o'clock in the morning, well, it's often stuck there. And there's this concept called emotional residue, or maybe even a fight with a friend. It just sticks there, and you carry that around with you all day, and it makes it hard to get focused at work. I'm lucky. I get to control my own schedule. I do a lot of creative stuff. I have a rule: do not check my phone in the first half an hour of the day. I might play with my son. I might do some exercise. I might write in my journal. I might just have a cup of tea and get some fresh air. I highly recommend you to do that. That email from your boss can wait another half an hour. It just can. It just takes planning. That's the first thing. The second thing that people do when they get into work or they sit down at their desk is they open their emails. Now, if your job is to open emails and you're in customer service, for example, then maybe that's not a great example. But what I do when I sit down to work is before checking my emails, I write down what are the things that need to get done today. What's that key work project? What is that key relationship I'm going to invest in? What's the health thing I'm going to invest in? And that might be a tool from the toolkit. And you might ask, well, why would I use a physical diary? Well, I love the fact that I get this bird's eye view of my whole week or my whole month. Writing by hand just makes it a bit more tangible. I have my phone out of sight, so there's no distraction there. And I like to put things into my diary, like my 15-minute break of a morning, or some learning activity that maybe I don't want to share with a colleague. And so it's a combination of keeping it a bit separate, this well-being focus, the reflection focus, and I find that really important. The third thing, which we'll talk about in a sec, is time blocks. Okay, so I've decided what's important in the day. When am I going to do it? It's not enough just to say I'm going to write the 2026 or 2027 diary. I need to break it down into small chunks, and then I need to actually set weekly and daily goals, and then I need to actually protect the time. And there's a wonderful concept called deep work by a guy called Cal Newport over in America. And it's in the mornings when you've got a bit more energy and you haven't been distracted by the rest of the day, do a couple of hours of deep work on something deep, something that requires concentration and effort. Writing a presentation, writing an article, planning a strategy, doing a coding block, whatever it might be. Do your deep work, and then throughout the day, you'll have different blocks of time. The really interesting thing about time blocking that I've found is that when you start to actually schedule every hour or two, you realize just how little time there is in a day. And it helps you to prioritize. You go back to your top 3, what's important, where does this fit in? I need to connect with that person. That might take an hour. I'm going to catch up with them for lunch. I need to do some exercise. I'm going to go outside for a walk. That's going to take half an hour. And you avoid that guilt and regret of getting to the end of a long day, spending all day on your emails or researching your project, but not actually having done anything that matters. And when we achieve what we set out to achieve, it just makes us feel so much better. It's motivating, it gives us confidence, and we get that spiral of, I guess, just an upward spiral. So that's at a high level. That's how I plan my months and I plan my weeks, and it works that way whether you use your daily diary or your weekly diary, a different diary altogether, or even just an online diary. So I'd encourage you to think about turning your to-do list into a series of priorities, and to turning that series of priorities into a schedule into when it actually happens. And I do this for my hobbies. You can see the guitars on the wall. When I plan when I'm going to play guitar, I play more guitar because sometimes I just don't feel like it, or sometimes something else comes along. The things that matter in our lives have to go into our schedules, at least at first, while we're trying to turn them into a habit. That's how you overcome overwhelm. I also like to think of planning my day in 3 parts. There's the planning phase, there's the performing phase, and the recovery phase. And I've just run through the planning phase a bit for you there. Performing is whatever it is you do, whether you're a parent, whether you're a childcare worker or a nurse, you're a leader at work, you're a receptionist, whatever your job might be, you've got 8 or 10 hours during the day when you've got to be on, stay energetic, stay focused. And then the part that people often don't get to is recovery. And I think that scheduling piece is really important. If you schedule a 5 or a 6 or a 7 o'clock walk with someone, or a gym session, or a short journaling session, or whatever it might be, it tends to happen and you can decompress from the rest of your day. It's like setting boundaries. Only 30% of people keep a schedule. So their time is just waiting to be stolen. And our big insight here is that if you plan your well-being first, then everything else in life becomes easier. Most people plan their work, fill their week up with meetings, and then they try and fit well-being in and realize, oh my goodness, no time for sleep, no time for preparing fresh meals, no time for seeing my friends, no time for doing my hobbies. That's the life that so many people are leading. And those things aren't just nice to haves, they're essential for well-being. Balance. That's why the best CEOs, the best leaders, they do find a way to exercise. They do find a way to get away from it. They rest properly. So think about your day in terms of planning it, what happens before it starts. That's about having a good morning routine. Perform is about what happens while you're at work. And for me, the big takeaway is schedule breaks. Stop occasionally, get up from your work, come back to it with a fresh mindset, focus, work in sprints, not just these long marathons, and then find a way to recover and switch off properly of an evening. One thing I like to do when I come home of an evening is to walk through the front door, walk up the stairs, and I just take a deep breath. That's my mindset. Okay, I'm going to be focused and present on what I'm doing now. All these tools, all these ideas are just little tweaks. They don't require reinventing your life, and to some extent, they're explained in the diary. So how do we make time for mental fitness? Well, this is how my diary looks. I actually like to color code mine. Yellow is movement and connection is blue. And I don't put the details of work in there. I put my mental fitness tools in here. Now, you may not be as extensive with yours as mine, but one thing per day for your mental fitness helps you feel good and helps you just manage your energy a bit better. So I'm trying to plan my week. I've got my weekly goals up here in the top right. I've got my daily priorities, and then I've got my time blocks. I think that's the key takeaway. And you can do that whether you use our diary or not. So setting goals for our well-being in 2026. And this is the case for any year. But the reason why I'm waiting till February for this webinar is because a lot of people, especially in Australia, are still on summer holidays, schools only just gone back, and a lot of people have already tried their thing for January, their New Year's resolution. You might have heard that something like 70% of people don't actually achieve their New Year's resolutions by the end of January, so 70% of them. And so what are people getting wrong? Or what do people miss? about setting wellbeing goals? Well, this is only a brief overview, and just take away what works for you. But these are some of the things that I've enjoyed doing over the last few months and in previous years. I think the big key to setting a goal is to focus on the process for completing it, not so much the outcome. So I'll use two examples. Writing a book and running a marathon. You might have a goal, write a book in 2026 or run a marathon in November of 2026. And for a lot of people, they think that's enough. They think if I just have enough motivation and willpower, that's going to work. But it doesn't work. What you need is the process for getting there. What thing has to happen daily for that goal to be achieved? In the case of the marathon, it's run 3 times a week and do a long run on a Saturday. And you can check off, you can schedule it and plan it and prioritize it using the system we've just talked about. But you can check off each week, am I on track? And you don't have to wait until November to realize that you're succeeding or not. You can actually succeed by just ticking off your weekly goals. For writing a book, which is something I'm working on, my goal is a bit further out, but writer's right. So I'm going to write for 2 hours every morning before I start my regular workday. Now, it's easy to say, I don't have time for this and what have you. Don't have time is a lack of clarity and a lack of priority. We find time for what's important to us, and we find time for things that we actually schedule. So focus on the process and not the outcome. Break your big goal down into small chunks, and then figure out what is the daily action that's going to get me there. The second part that I'd encourage you to do is to focus on new month's resolutions. Instead of setting New Year's resolutions, maybe failing by the end of January and giving up, use the new month's resolution. It takes 21 days or 28 days to set to build a habit. You get 12 new chances. If I don't make it work in January, I'll make it work in February. I need to make it work in March, April. Keep iterating, keep changing your strategy, keep optimizing your system and your process until it happens. I like to review my goals for the year in a really formal way, at least 4 times a year. So I do it quarterly. So at the end of March, at the end of June, at the end of September, and then again in December when I'm setting goals for the new year, I'll review my whole system. And I'll come to an exercise you can do in a moment that can actually make that quite a structured process. And then I think the third key is to prioritize recovery. And I'm not just talking about going from work to watching Netflix. Think about the difference between active recovery and passive recovery. Active rest versus passive rest. Is a wonderful concept in the science that talks about how very often we think that relaxing is about sitting on the couch and watching TV because we're not actually doing anything. But there's a lot of good research that shows that people aren't actually all that happy watching TV. You feel a bit zoned out and a bit sluggish at the end of it. It takes more effort to get it done initially, and it can feel like effort. But if you do something like playing an instrument, learning something new, reading a book, connecting with a friend, walking your dog in the park, whatever it is, something that actually is a bit active, you find a way to distract yourself a bit from whatever's on your mind, and you come back refreshed and focused. People are really, really bad at predicting what is going to give them energy and motivation. This is especially the case for people who struggle with depression. They are not able to activate their behavior, and that's why this scheduling approach works so well. So focus on the process, new month's resolutions. Don't forget recovery and rest and pausing as a part of your day. A couple of tactics that I've been using myself. One is to do a regret review. Presumably you set goals last year. Which of your well-being goals do you regret not achieving the most? Why does it matter? Really dig into why it matters, which should give you some new purpose. So focus on purpose by constantly tapping into why this matters and why not achieving it in the past might have made you feel bad or impacted your life in some way. It creates new purpose for this year. Another tactic or a mindset really to think about is to embrace discomfort. Doing meaningful things is hard. And more in the modern world, with so much convenience and food delivery and on-demand media, we get the sense that, oh, if it's not easy, it's not worthwhile. And it's just the totally wrong way of thinking about it. People say, oh, it wasn't easy going for that ride. Well, that's the point. Climbing Everest is an achievement, or doing what that guy Alex Honnold did, which is climbing a skyscraper recently. It's only meaningful because it took some effort and discomfort. When something is difficult or hard or uncomfortable, and I'm learning this from spending time trying to put together YouTube videos this year, it doesn't mean you're a failure. The fact that it's difficult or that it's uncomfortable doesn't mean it's not working. That actually means you're pushing yourself. That's the price of growth. And whatever well-being or professional goal you're trying to set, I think that's really important to understand. Of course, you want to scale it back if it's starting to really bring you down, but just because it's uncomfortable doesn't necessarily make it bad. Easy does not always equal good. Hard does not always equal bad. Set if-then plans, like the example I gave before of when I come into the house of an evening after work, I'm going to not be on the phone. If I walk in the door, I'm going to not be on the phone checking it or on the call, because I want to be present for my family when I walk in. Or if I walk up the front stairs, then I'm going to express gratitude for something that's gone well today, so that I'm not totally overwhelmed by negativity. One of the rules that I like to set is if there's a set of stairs next to an escalator, I will walk up those stairs, even instead of the escalator. That's how I get 10 or 20 seconds of incidental movement into my day. If you go to the gym, take the stairs day to day. It's a simple little thing, but we get to choose these if-then implementation intentions. It's a wonderful concept. Stacking your habits is a similar way of looking at it. If I'm brushing my teeth, I'm going to think about what I'm planning for my top 3 tomorrow so I can write it down. Things like that. Habit stacking is a wonderful idea. When I turn the dishwasher on overnight, I'm going to get my walking clothes so I can go for a walk the next morning. James Clear, in his book Atomic Habits, talks about making your goals easy, setting up your workspace so that it's clear. The thing you want to be doing is sitting on the table in front of you. For me, I like to leave my top 3 goals that I planned the night before in front of me. Lay out your clothes is the classic one if you're going to try and get up and do some morning exercise. If your goal, and we haven't really talked about this today, if your goal is to spend less time on your phone, keep your phone out of sight more. Only 3% of people turn their phone off overnight. Well, you might say, well, what am I going to use for an alarm? Well, do what I do, which is to have an actual alarm clock. Keep your phone downstairs in the entry, turn it off, and use an alarm clock so you're not tempted to check your phone when you can't sleep, and which just makes it worse, or when in the first thing in the morning, just to automatically dive into your messages or your emails. And I think we've covered this one. Protect time for yourself. Schedule those things that matter to you before the rest of your week gets booked in. And it's totally okay if you want to cancel on one of those appointments with yourself or to reschedule an appointment with yourself. But it's got to be there in the first place. So a lot of what we do in our workshops and our writing and our programs talks about how to actually set wellbeing goals, not just as a January and December activity, but as a daily and a weekly thing as well. So that's what we love to do as well. I want to invite you to visit our website, resilienceagenda.com. In the articles section, we've just put together an article on the Mental Fitness Compass. I'd really like to turn this into an interactive tool later this year. This is a wonderful activity for doing alongside goal setting or even before goal setting. Often we set the same goals that we set 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, lose some weight, spend less time on our phone, learn German, whatever it might be. And we don't actually change the strategy each year. Hopefully we've covered some of that today. The Mental Fitness Compass helps you to figure out whether you're setting the right goals in the right areas of life. Now, I might have missed something here, but this is based on the famous Wheel of Life concept. And the Mental Fitness Compass is 12 wedges or 12 parts of life that are important for living a happy, focused, calm, and fulfilled life. These are the things we worry about. And often we don't think about some of these. We might think about money a lot or our career a lot. We may not think about relationships or our health a lot. And so the compass, just like true north, takes us to where we want to go. If we say that's a good life going north, well, getting us there is our relationship with each of these 12 areas. Our physical health and fitness, our mental fitness and resilience, our home and work environment, our money and finances. Do we have enough day to day, week to week, year to year? Our career and business. Are we setting the goals that we want? Are we hitting the goals we want? Are we going in the right direction? Learning and growth. Are we developing? Are we showing progress? One of the great human motivators is to see progress in any area, even if you're starting at the bottom, just to feel like you're slowly getting better at something. That's a lifelong project. Digital well-being and focus is a new one. I think that's such an important tool. Fun and hobbies. What are the things you like doing outside of work? Your intimate relationships with your spouse or your partner. Family, friends, and team, your support network. Who's supporting you? Who are you supporting? Belonging and contribution, that's about giving back. Our lives need to be about something more than just our own satisfaction. The best lives involve doing something for a cause or an idea or for others, and that links into meaning and purpose. That could be spirituality, it could be religion, God. In my case, it's raising a son, spreading the mental fitness message. And then what the article encourages you to do is to give yourself a score from 0 to 10 in each of those areas. Figure out what you're doing well and keep building on it. Ask yourself why you're doing well in that. And then figure out which areas am I probably out of balance in? Where do I need to actually do a bit more? It's not about getting a 10 out of 10 score for every area. That's unrealistic because you don't have enough time in the day. But it's about not being a 1 or a 2 in any of those areas. That's the first thing I'd encourage you to do. So jump onto our website, resilienceagenda.com. It's pretty easy to find in the articles section. Another way to make this a reality and all these ideas and this daily wisdom is our new newsletter, Mental Fitness Weekly 321. Started this in the middle of last year and we've already got a couple of thousand subscribers. The way to join up is to go onto our website, put your name in and join that particular list. We don't send it to everyone on our list. We only send it to people who want to be on that list. And what it is a 5-minute email that I send every Sunday with 3 inspiring quotes, similar to the ones in the diary, if you know the diaries. 2 ideas or concepts or thoughts that I've been reflecting on that are great ways to put yourself in a great frame of mind. And then 1 tool, a really practical tool, something that you can apply today. That tool might come from philosophy or from science or from any area of science, basically. It helps you strengthen your problem solving and your decision making and the way you plan your time and the way you relate to others. They're just really cool concepts. If you ever want to stop, you can always back out. That's fine. You can unsubscribe, but jump on to resilienceagenda.com and sign up to that and check it out. We're getting some really, really great feedback from it. If you want to really take your mental fitness practice to a new level, we've just brought out in November an online learning platform we've called Mental Fitness Daily. Some people love our diaries, but aren't able to get the depth that they want, and they want to learn more in greater depth. Some people love the mental fitness concept, but no longer want to use a diary. And so people have been asking, well, can you offer something in a digital version? And so Mental Fitness Daily is a platform. It's available on a browser or on the Apple Store or the Google Play Store. We've only just launched it. We're going to be building out features for it over the year. We're going to have a free offering for it later in the year. But basically, it's a video-based, interactive, self-guided learning platform that basically gives you daily inspiration. Some of the things take 2 minutes, some of them take a bit longer, for basically turning mental fitness into a daily practice. The idea I have for it is that people, while they're having their coffee every morning, just instead of scrolling Instagram, will actually do something uplifting for a couple of minutes and put themselves in a great frame of mind. And the idea of it is that we're adding well-being and wisdom together. A lot of people know a bit about well-being, and a lot of people don't know how to live wisely. And so that's what we're trying to encourage. And when you live with wisdom and well-being, life tends to flow a bit better. The first thing we've done in Mental Fitness Daily is we've put together like a best of package, like a flagship program. I've called it the 28-day Mental Fitness Reset. 28 days because that's how long it takes to build a habit. Each day goes for 15 minutes. It's a 15-minute video with a topic, reflections, really practical action steps, some of which we've covered today. And by the end of it, you'll basically be an expert in mental fitness. It's 7 hours of content altogether. You don't have to do it in 28 days. You might like to do it once every second day and take 2 months to do it. You might like to do it over a 3-month period, but people are getting the best results doing it all at once. And we're getting 5-star reviews for it. It's only been available since November, and I'm really, really proud of it. I know we're running short of time here. Until the end of this week, until the end of the weekend, we're actually offering a 20% discount on it. So if you want to use the code WebinarWins, if you'd like to go and read about it and watch the video and learn what it's all about, you can get involved. The best thing about it is, if you decide to do it and you don't like it or your situation changes, just write to us and say, we'll give you your money back. The risk is all ours. We're so confident you're going to like the program, like so many people who have done it since November have, that if you don't like it, we'll give you your money back. It's pretty simple. What else? We're going to be bringing out our podcast again for the year ahead. We haven't done that for a little while because I was traveling and having my baby last year. We're gonna do that. Feel free to check out our articles. Follow us on social media. This year, I want to do a lot more on YouTube and LinkedIn. If you haven't already signed up to our regular newsletter on the website, do that. That's probably how you heard about this today. And so, with that, I want to just have a chat about, see if anyone's got any questions. I want to thank you for your time. Thanks for being here. And let's see. Let's see if we've got some questions here. All right. So someone said the quotes in the diary are great, so timely. Thank you very much. Someone from the Gold Coast, love my Resilience Agenda diary. Worth every penny. I like that. We've got someone from New Zealand, Julia from New Zealand, Fiona from Lancashire in the UK, Martin from Hertfordshire. We've got Amin from Mackay. Does anyone have any questions for us? Any comments or ideas? Hope you enjoyed that. I think we've just gone over the hour. So what I might do is say, look, thank you so much for joining us. You're very welcome to send us an email at letstalk@resilienceagenda.com. We would love to hear from you. Can we view the replay, Debbie? Thank you so much for asking the question. Absolutely. This will be on our YouTube page. We're slowly figuring out how to use YouTube. You can use that as a replay. You'll be able to get the codes and the links. Absolutely. So, yep, you can watch this on YouTube. We may even put it on the website actually too. Thanks so much, Debbie. Squeaky Pip says, I love the quotes. This is great. Thanks, Roxy, for putting up the discount code, webinar wins. Don't forget that if you'd like to check out our course. Paul, thank you so much. Great presentation. Look, I know I've gone a bit over time, but thank you so much. Really appreciate all your support. When I hear and receive emails saying thank you, I love what you've done, we're only a small operation. It really is encouraging. So if our diaries or our workshops or our content has had some impact on you, please let me know. I'd love to hear about it. Thank you very much, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed it. We look forward to working with you in the future. And stay in touch.